Welcome in to This Week in Missouri Politics Daily Update. My name is Jay Crozen, and it is my day of the week. But I am joined. He's not in this chair because he's got to manage all of the important stuff in the back. But I am joined by not really new Kelton, but a new Kelton cam, which has been demanded by everybody to come back. And we've got a new and improved one. Kelton, show your beautiful face to the audience if you can.
Hello, beautiful TWMP Daily audience.
It's truly magnificent to see Kelton again on a cam such as that. Kelton, I can't tell from here. Do you got flat Dane Deal in the presence?
Yeah, that's Representative Dane Deal right there. That's my main man. I love him to death.
Flat Dane Deal is, according to Scott, is more agreeable to Scott's points of view than 3D Dane Deal, but he doesn't talk as much. So it is nice to have two guests back there, even if one can't really talk as much as the other. But we do have a new Kelton cam. Kelton's actually got a brand new extended office back there. So if you're ever in the area, please come in and see the magnificence that is Kelton's office. And also, check out our new studio. Obviously, Scott showed it off yesterday. Was it yesterday, Kelton? This week's gotten very long. But Scott showed it off with the greatest guests ever, greatest best-dressed guests ever, that being Representative Ken Waller and Representative Jim Murphy. They were all wearing stylish coats, which I was in the building yesterday, and I heard several people express to me that they would love to get coats like that. And I told them they need to reach out to Ken Waller. But they're truly stylish and extremely, extremely well maintained. So please, if you are interested in those, reach out to Representative Ken Waller's office. He will make sure that you are in the Stars and Stripes Coats Club, which is very exclusive. But yeah, this week was very interesting week. Kelton and I started off having a little bit of fun this week. As most of you probably know by now, last Friday was the last day or was it Thursday? I've lost track of the days, to be honest. But last week, at the end of the week, was the last day you could file bills. And one prankster in the House decided to file a couple bills to rename some various landmarks or bridges, or I think there was a trail, after the vice chair of the House Budget Committee, Bishop Davidson. And it's honestly some of the greatest legislation I've ever seen. It would rename every bridge in the state to the Bishop Davidson Bridge. Katy Trail would become the Bishop Davidson Trail. And honestly, I think my personal favorite is renaming Desi to I think it was like the Bishop Davidson Curriculum Distribution Department.
The Bishop Davidson Curriculum Distribution Center.
Which, honestly, if any bill gets passed this year, it really should be that one. I think it would really make things more entertaining around here. But from what I've heard, Representative Davidson would rather the bridge one for name recognition, obviously. But so, yeah, me and Kelton had a lot of fun talking about that over the weekend, and so we got a little thing together. If you haven't read it yet, definitely go check it out on the Missouri Times. I think it's one of my favorite things I've written, and I've heard from several representatives that they genuinely enjoyed reading it.
How could you forget? It's also naming the state fair to the Bishop Davidson Fair.
That's right. If you haven't been to the state fair yet, which I don't know how you haven't yet, there's a good chance that this summer, if you go, it'll be named after Bishop Davidson. So, yeah, just keep an eye on that. You know, crazier bills have been passed. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. That was a lot of fun to start off the week, though. But on like a serious House note, they did pass a nearly $2 billion supplemental bill for the budget. And from what I saw, one of the key points was 300 million was going to go to various education spending. That's obviously because last session they passed a pretty substantial school choice bill very late, and so that, from what I've been told, was not accounted for in the budget. So they had to cover a couple holes there. Uh, but yeah, that should fund state government till about midsummer. And then, but obviously they'll have the budget this year, which I've been waiting to see these February reports for the general revenue. Obviously, as you remember, January saw a bit of a decline in the general revenue report, and so I'm waiting to see how February goes. From what I've heard, it's still a little bit of a drop, but not as bad as January. But we will see. Other big news, actually, St. Louis mayor race had their primary election night this week. And no surprise, Kara Spencer and Tashara Jones will be facing off this April. Kara Spencer had a little over 42% of the vote, and Tashara had, I think, around 22, 23%. And obviously the other two members in the race are gonna have to drop out. But you can call me crazy, and a lot of people have already, but I think Tashara can do it. I don't know how, but I don't think people should be counting her out just yet. I think she could be able to pull out a good bit of vote for herself. But Kara's just got a lot of money in that account, and I suspect she's going to be getting a lot more. So I would keep an eye on it. I would not count Tashara out just yet. But we'll see how fundraising goes for her in the next week or so. But yeah, do not count her out just yet. The biggest news of the week, obviously, last night, a bunch of us gathered together to watch the Senate debate the crime bill. We had our sleeping bags ready. We had our campfires with our marshmallows, and we just had a great time. But I have to say, last night was a display of how effective this year's Senate leadership has been. They got out relatively early. A lot of us were expecting us to think that it was going to go later on until early this morning. But they got out around, I think, 11:45 or so last night. But Senate leadership, from what I saw and from what I've heard, they did a fantastic job of keeping everybody working towards finding a good goal to agree on. Senator Nick Schroer and Senator Carla May were just so courteous to each other. At the end of the debate, Senator Schroer stood up. To much of his credit, he stood in that chamber the entire time, and if they had any questions for him, he was ready for it. If anybody needed to talk to him, he was in that chamber listening to the Senate filibustering. And just to his credit, he did a very good job last night of working with his colleagues across the aisle to find a way to get this bill passed. And at the end of it, he thanked his colleagues for their hard work, but he especially thanked the hard work of Senator Carla May and her dedication to her voters and her constituents. And it was just a really good display of civil debate. There really honestly wasn't terribly too much debate between the two sides. It was mainly just filibustering, but they did a really good job of working together to find common ground and to find a way forward to that bill. And I think last night was a very good display of what the Senate leadership has to offer. And also, I think it's a very good display. Yesterday, if you saw Scott's Twitter, you saw that Governor Kehoe was working the halls and was talking to senators and talking to other people on how to get this bill through. And I think it is also a good display of just how good relations are between the governor's mansion and the General Assembly this year. And it is come in handy for Governor Kehoe on a priority of his to get that bill across. But yeah, if you were there last night, you could definitely tell that there was an atmosphere of productivity and a sort of I guess, renewed sense to actually get things done this year. And the Senate has been getting a lot of bills done this year. And I think last night was just another good example of how everybody has been working together to try to get good policy out. And so, yeah, if you were there, you definitely saw how the Senate really was at a new point, especially over the last few years. They were very civil. I just never seen that much team work between senators over the last couple of years, to the extent I saw last night. So it was a really good night. Good night for Nick Schroer, who obviously passed a huge piece of legislation. Or it was a really good night for Governor Kehoe, who got a piece of legislation that he's been, kind of claiming as a big capstone of his agenda over a major hurdle. Really good night for Senate leadership. They were able to work together with the other aisle to get some major reforms in. But yeah, if you were there, you could definitely tell it was. It just felt like a different Senate last night. But yeah, other than that, this week has been pretty productive. Some smaller bills moving through the legislature. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a little bit of House drama this week. Representative Trisha Burns, obviously, if you heard about that so far, may have made a little bit of a mistake trying to test the 988 hotline. I don't know if I would have done that, but she is actually coming from a serious place, wanting to fix a system that needs reform. And so it actually just came out yesterday from the Cole County prosecutor that they weren't going to charge her, which I think that's a good thing. I think from what I've read so far, she really was sincere about wanting to fix it. Maybe not have gotten about the best way to do it, but I thought she was definitely sincere in her motives there. Let's see. Got a list of notes here. Oh yeah, this weekend is going to be the statewide Lincoln Days. Peter Kinder will be there. I think Governor Kehoe is going to be there. From what I heard, I believe Secretary of State Denny Hoskins will be giving a speech one night. But it sounds like this weekend's actually going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there to say hi to some folks, but yeah, definitely if you're able to attend, I know the hotel is booked, but if you're able to attend and you got some time this weekend, definitely come up. I think it is going to be a really good display of what the Missouri Republican Party's got to offer this session. It'll be interesting to hear, what other policies they want to pursue. But I think it's going to be a good weekend. Kelton, what do you got going on this weekend?
Not much.
Oh, Kelton, you got some big news. You were real mad at me for not knowing about it.
Are you being serious?
I think there's probably some people on here who actually are deadly serious about St. Louis Blues.
Yes. Defenseman Colton Perriaco is expected to miss the rest of the regular season, which is very saddening for us Blues fans.
Yeah, I don't count myself among them, but I'm sure it is sad for a couple of you guys. But yeah, so Kelton's gonna be crying about that this weekend, but it's okay. I'm sure he'll find something to keep him busy. I do want to give a special shout out to my good friend Trey, whose birthday was yesterday. If you see Trey this weekend, or if you got his number or anything like that, text him, tell him happy birthday. I felt awful that I couldn't spend more time with him yesterday, but obviously I was over in the Senate watching the filibuster. But Trey's just a great guy, and if you see him on the street, you see him in the Capitol building, or you got his number, make sure you tell him happy birthday. He's fantastic, dude. Um, let's see. Oh yeah. Next week, me and Kelton will be workshopping a couple projects that Scott's got us working on. There'll be more to come on that if it works out. But I think some cool new stuff's coming down the pipeline for the times. Um, yeah, really not a ton going on today. Which, yeah. Um, oh yeah, Sunday show. We actually do have a very good guest panel. It's just going to be a panel of some House members. We've got Representatives Rachel Prouty, who, according to Kelton, just gave a fantastic one-liner in the show. So you got to make sure to watch Sunday show to hear that. You also will be seeing Jackson County's fieriest representative, that being Representative Carrie Engel. So definitely make sure to check that out. And we will also be having on Representatives Jeff Vernetti and Representatives Bill Owen. The show was taped this morning, so I think it was pretty good. But definitely check it out for the sake of hearing Rachel Prouty give an excellent one-liner.
To be fair, Scott had an equally good one-liner that he responded with. So I'll give credit where credit is credit.
That's fair. That is fair. But yeah, Kelton, there's not a lot going on this weekend, but if you were coming into town to Jeff City to spend the weekend here, where would you and your wife be staying at?
The Courtyard by Marriott, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. Unless you want to stay at the Capitol Plaza, and then I think you'll catch a plague or something like that. But obviously, if you come to Jeff City, you guys stay at the Courtyard by Marriott. But also, if you're getting Wi-Fi or getting rural broadband, you got to go with United Fiber, the greatest rural broadband in the country, just ever to exist. But yeah, honestly, just to recap again, the crime bill was really the big capstone of the week. The crime bill was really the capstone of the week here. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, they got to send it back to the House to get a couple more lookovers. It'll be interesting to see if the House members attempt to put anything on there or change it in any way. I would suspect that might be a bit of an issue for some senators to do that. So definitely keep an eye on that. I'm sure caucus will try to figure out a way to go around that. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. Definitely keep an eye on a couple more of the priorities coming down the pipeline. Income tax bill. Glyphosate, I'm assuming, will come around at some point. I'm going to guess they're going to have a cool down period for some things. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on all the legislative priorities this week. If you're able to, definitely go to Lincoln Days this weekend. I heard it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, before we want to go, though, obviously, we want to give another big shout out. We had a special guest on yesterday after Representatives Jim Murphy and Ken Waller, and that was our man Billy, who put this whole new studio together. And is fantastic. He got Kelton. I can't remember how many. It was pretty much. I feel like it was like 2 days. He got this whole thing pretty much just put together. It was just crazy to see how hard that man worked on this studio, and as you can tell, it's obviously fantastic. And so, big shout out to Billy. That man will put together anything in the blink of an eye, and he not only has been there for us in the past, but he has outdone himself with this studio. It's just fantastic. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry it isn't too much going on, but definitely tune in next week. I'm suspecting there's going to be a good bit of stuff moving through the legislature. I'm thinking the House is actually going to start sending stuff through. But it's going to be a good couple busy weeks before spring break. So definitely keep an eye on that, and definitely tune in this Sunday for the show. So Kelton, you got anything you want to say to the viewers?
Not really, no.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and catch us next week. All right.